It's Lee for On Your Marks Wrestling, and I'm here with a Summerslam review for August 19th, 2018. I recorded this last night. Unfortunately, I forgot a match completely. Figured I might as well restart this whole process. I think it was actually good to sleep on it because I had to think about some matches a little bit more, maybe raise a couple scores a little bit. Speaking of which, this first match is one of the scores I raised. So the first match was Seth Rollins versus Dolph Ziggler for the Intercontinental Championship. And I was not impressed with this match at all. At first, the first 2/3 of this match was incredibly boring to me. The only thing that was kind of interesting was the Ambrose McIntyre face-off thing without ever touching, which was okay. The last 5 minutes were really, really good. Unfortunately, last night I had ordered pizza and I answered the door during those 5 minutes, so I kind of missed how good that 5 minutes was. And it kind of redeemed this match a little bit for me. I had given it a 5.5 the first time I looked it over. I still only give it a 6.5, not because, they certainly tried some stuff. The move that Rollins pulled off, which is kind of like a vertical suplex but inverted, really cool. But at the end of the day, the first 2/3 of this match didn't even need to exist, and it would have been a much better match. Or at least, he could have shortened it by 5 minutes, and it would have been a much, much, much better match. I would have probably given it an 8.5 out of 10. So there was a bit of boredom there. The next match was Bludgeon Brothers versus New Day. This was a really, really solid match with a wet fart of a finish. It was just the worst. We had a DQ finish of Eric Rowan using a mallet to hit guys, but it didn't look gruesome in any way. It looked chicken shit. Just, I'm going to get myself disqualified so that I don't have to fight anymore kind of deal. I hate that. Bludgeon Brothers should never need to resort to that. Either beat them, which I don't think was the right thing, or just beat New Day. New Day can lose. It's not the worst thing. But to have it finished this way was just kind of disappointing after a really, really solid back and forth match. I enjoyed everything about it except for the finish. The finish really tainted the match because I would have given this a really high score, and I ended up giving it a 6 out of 10. That's going to be a common score for me. You'll see it. The next match was Braun Strowman versus Kevin Owens, and it was a squash. Owens got no offense in. It ended in a couple seconds. I didn't hate it as much as some people would. I think Owens can kind of get through this and not really be negatively affected by it. Braun needs to win matches this way when he's winning. So I didn't have a problem with it. It was for the Money in the Bank briefcase. I gave this a 5.5 out of 10 only because there wasn't much match to rate. But I actually kind of liked it. I didn't hate the decision, I'll say. The next match was Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch versus Carmella. I wrote this was a pretty decent match. Some people kind of talk about Carmella not being on that level, and I guess she isn't really, but she tried things. She did a really nice dive on the outside. She held her own. And then you had Charlotte doing a twisting, flying thing off the turnbuckle, which was perfect. Becky Lynch certainly did a lot of good work in this match as well. At the end of the match, Becky Lynch has the disarm her on Carmella, and she gets natural selected by Charlotte, who wins the championship. At the very end, they kind of hug, and then Becky turns on Charlotte, and the crowd pops for it. So WWE really doesn't like a babyface that's really popular, so I think they're turning her heel. But based on the way this crowd popped, I feel like you can find a way to make Charlotte... You should find a way to make Charlotte the bad guy in this feud. Becky Lynch... Charlotte wasn't supposed to be in this match. Becky Lynch is upset that Charlotte kind of stole her thunder. I feel like that's a tellable story. You can kind of call back to some other occurrences of it. I liked it. I really liked... I wanted Becky Lynch to win. I still think that would have been the best choice this time around. But if you're not going to make her win, making her attack Charlotte was the next best thing. And that's all I can say. I really liked it. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. The next match was AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe. Joe talked directly to AJ's family before the match. I thought this was a really, really good match. It kind of ended in a way that was disappointing, but not as disappointing as it could have been. So basically, Joe stands up on an announce table and talks to AJ's wife again. Says, "I told you AJ wouldn't go home, or would go home, but it looks like he might not. But don't worry, I'll be your daddy." He says that to the daughter. It was a really bad thing to say, but like funny. And AJ Styles attacks him, and then he goes crazy and uses a chair and gets a DQ'd for it. It's a much more acceptable DQ in my eyes because A, Samoa Joe deserved it. B, AJ Styles really beat on Samoa Joe. It was much more violent than the other DQ. It didn't look chicken shit. It just looked like a crime of passion, we'll say. So I actually thought this was a good match, but I still don't like DQ finishes on big shows like this. And so I couldn't give it as high a mark as I wanted to, because if it didn't have the DQ finish, this was on pace to become a 9 out of 10 for me, maybe an 8.5, 9 out of 10. I ended up giving it a 7 out of 10. I hate DQ finishes on a big show like this unless it's for a kind of lower tier match. This was a high profile match. Excuse me. The next match was Daniel Bryan versus The Miz. I thought it was a solid back and forth match. It had more wrestling than brawling, which was kind of... This feud seemed to be calling for more brawling, so I was a little confused by that. It didn't seem like the right move. At the end of it, Bryan was kind of dominant. Miz is recovering at the fence. Maurice gives him what appears to be a foreign object. I don't know if it's brass knucks or something like that. Miz hits Bryan, gets the win, cheats to win. That's fine. The result is fine. It didn't really matter. I thought this was a really good match, but like I said, I think it would have benefited from more brawling, a little less wrestling. I still gave it a 7.5 out of 10, which is one of my highest scores of the night. That's kind of tied for the highest score with the women's match. The next match was Baron Corbin versus Finn Balor as the Demon. Finn Balor's entrance alone will always get a decent score from me. There was virtually no match, so basically the story here is Corbin's not ready for the Demon. He was expecting to face regular Balor. He acts scared, he acts kind of thrown off, and Balor just wins in like a minute and a half. It's basically a squash match. I gave this a half a mark more than the Braun Strowman Kevin Owens match, only because that intro is so damn cool. So I gave it a 6 out of 10. The next match was Jeff Hardy versus Shinsuke Nakamura. I wrote, it had starts, but a lot more stops from, at least the feel of it was that the stops were longer. At one point there was a missed low blow, which kind of looked cool with Nakamura just holding his arm up and the ref just looking at him going like, what the hell? Hardy hits a swanton bomb, but Nakamura kicks out of it, so you get a little bit of a false finish there. Then Hardy tries a swanton bomb on the apron, which looked crazy painful. And that basically leads to Nakamura getting the win. At the end, Randy Orton comes out and you think he's going to attack, but he actually kind of turns back, and I don't remember him doing anything. So I don't know about that Orton bit, but everything else was just a little slow. Hardy's swanton bomb really saved this match a lot. And don't get me wrong, there was some good bits in between all of the stops, but I thought that Hardy's bump is a very memorable part of the match, but most of the match was very forgettable. I gave it a 6.5 out of 10. We had Ronda Rousey versus Alexa Bliss. It was nice to see Natalya with her father having passed away this week. Rousey dominates this match, as she should, with cool judo throws and things like that. I think my camera's tilting a little bit more. Okay. But then I wrote the question, and I was totally okay with the result of this match. The fact that Rousey's in this match, maybe not, but once this match is made, Rousey needed to win this. She needed to win, showing dominance. I was fine with all of it. But for some reason, and I don't know who did this, someone, I'm convinced, told Rousey, you need to talk more. You need to talk to Alexa Bliss more and taunt her. You need to talk to the crowd in order to taunt Alexa Bliss more. You need to talk to everybody. And so Rousey never shut up. during this match, and she's not the best talker. She's really good as a silent assassin kind of person, but she's not a really good talker, and she doesn't have the nicest voice. It's very annoying. So I just kept wanting her to shut up, and it really ruined the match for me. I wanted to like this match, even though it was a short one, but all the talking, without the talking, I would probably give it a 7.5 out of 10, 7 out of 10, something in that range, because it was fine. But because of all the talking, I had to flip that to a 5.5 out of 10. It was almost unbearable for me. So then we get to the last match of the night, and my phone is about to fall. I'll just sit up more. It's Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. Strowman shows up before the match with his Money in the Bank briefcase, tells them that he's going to cash it in no matter who wins. Then Reigns dominates early, really attacks Lesnar early. Looks a lot like the Goldberg stuff. He hits 3 spears. On the third spear, Lesnar puts a guillotine on, which kind of brings him back into the match. There's another guillotine that kind of slows Reigns down. Then Lesnar manages to throw Reigns into Strowman, and he F5s Strowman, which they smartly explain that he's trying to take out Strowman so that after the match he gets to retain his championship. He gets back in the ring, but he actually gets speared by Roman Reigns, and Reigns gets the win. The crowd actually popped for this. Now, I don't know if this was a little bit of piped popping or if it was just pure. But basically, I think the crowd popped because they're tired of Lesnar more than because they're excited for Reigns. Because let's be honest, no one is excited for Reigns, but the Lesnar thing is really wearing on people. So they were happy for that. Strowman couldn't cash in, and that was the end of the pay-per-view. Oh man, this is gonna fall soon. My overall thoughts, not the strongest, not horrible. There weren't too many horrible matches, but not the strongest pay-per-view. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 6.5 out of 10. I think that's kind of where it falls. It wasn't great. We always wish it was TakeOver, right? All right, thanks for watching.